But a new article in the New York Times Smarter Living section argues perfectionism can actually harm productivity. It's called "It's Never Going to Be Perfect, so Just Get It Done." The article says putting too much research and time into a project, whether writing an email or making a presentation, can damage the end result. The author of that article and editor of Smart Living is Tim Herrera. He joins us at the table. Good morning.
Good morning.
Clearly, you're thinking, you're not perfect, so why should the rest of us be?
And that's the idea behind this article.
Yes.
Nobody's perfect.
How good is
I
this
raise
article?
a little bit. Yes.
So what's your argument against perfectionism?
So the idea that we should be obsessed with achieving a perfect result for everything that we do is kind of a mirage, and it's something that we're never going to achieve. And
Unrealistic, you say?
It's unrealistic.
Yeah.
And even if we got there, what looks perfect to us may not look perfect to somebody else.
So true.
So what's
Good point,
the point
yes.
in striving for it?
That is
So rather than putting so much effort and going over such minor details that are incremental improvements, if even, rather focus more on just completing it, being satisfied with what you've done, and doing the good work behind it.
You quote Voltaire, who is attributed with saying, "Perfect is the enemy of good."
Yeah, so it's just a great kind of mindset to go into this. You know, we're sort of just so obsessed with perfection and achievement, and, you know, really we're kind of setting ourselves up for failure because we're never going to reach these weird, lofty goals that we've just set ourselves up for. So rather, we should just kind of think about the journey. The road is the goal, right?
So how do you know when good is good enough? When did you press
Yes.
send, I guess, this article?
Yes, this article, I
question.
literally have been writing it for a month because I wanted it to be perfect.
Yes.
And so it's just one of those things where you have to have a little bit of introspection, a little bit of self-awareness, and realize when you reach that point of kind of diminishing returns, where you're making changes that you think are improvements, but really maybe you're just kind of making it different rather than making it better.
This advice doesn't really apply to all lines of work, right? If you're in like a nuclear lab, right, the guy, the IVF story from earlier, you should have got the label down right. Those allegations. You know, I mean, would you say this applies to everybody?
It's generally applicable. You can kind of apply it to different scenarios. And, you know, kind of built into this article are ways to kind of get around this idea of striving for it and rather just completing it. So one of the things that I write about in the article is focusing on micro goals. And so what I mean by that is slicing up a given project or a given task into the tiniest units of progress so that along the way to your achievement, you're racking up a lot of little wins, you're making sure that you're keeping yourself accountable, you're making progress, and you're not so focused on the end goal, but rather just the process that's going to get you there.
You say there are two types of people, maximizers and satisfiers?
Yes, maximizers and satisficers.
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 Is that a word you made up?
I did not coin that. No, it's a term that researchers use.
Satisficers.
Satisficers. And so maximizers.
That is not going to roll off the tongue.
Satisficers. So maximizers are people who relentlessly research every possible option when it comes to making a decision. Satisficers, on the other hand, are people who maybe do a little bit less research but come to a decision much sooner. But so the research actually shows that satisficers, in the end, are more satisfied with the decisions that they ultimately make.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's the difference between, you know, I was always raised, don't settle.
Yeah.
When you're saying just get it done, is part of you actually settling on something? Because you always think I could make it. If you think you could make it better, why not try to do that? So
you're never going to end that line of thinking because you're never going to achieve something that you feel is 100% perfect. And so it is really just kind of a little shift in mindset of knowing that you're never going to achieve perfection. So you have to be okay with the realization that it's not perfect, but it's done, and hopefully it's good enough.
Yeah, that's a very difficult thing for some people, I mean, particularly who are perfectionists.
Right.
Knowing the moment when to let go.
Right, and it is that you do reach that point of diminishing returns where you can keep making changes, keep making edits, but you're really just making it different, you're not making it better.
So you say, you write about something called a mostly fine decision.
Yes, so the MFD, something that I've written a lot about before, and so that is that point where you think you've invested probably a little too much time in something, and you just think, okay, I may not reach the absolute most 100% perfect conclusion or decision, but it's a mostly fine one, and I'm satisfied with the outcome.
Well, I'm mostly fine with how this segment has gone.
I was going to say the same thing.
Very
well
good.
done.
I was too. That's when you know we got to go.
Thank you very much.